elsewhere, and continued showers for the north of Scotland as well as parts of eastern England. But under clear skies, well, many places will see temperatures dip into the low double figures or even the high single figures. A more comfortable night for sleeping and a fresh start to Wednesday. Plenty of sunshine around first thing, especially for northern and western England, Wales, southern Scotland. Quite quickly the cloud will build and it will tend to fill in, so a rather cloudy afternoon, broken areas of cloud and a few showers. Many places avoiding them though, and 22 to 24 Celsius in the south, 18 to 21 in the north. So feeling pleasant with the lighter winds and where we do get some bright spells, but certainly no return of last week's heat on the horizon. Now into Thursday morning, early hours we'll see thicker cloud across some central parts of the UK. Areas of rain or showers here. Either side of that, some clear spells, but with a cloudier night on the whole, it's a milder night. Temperatures in some urban areas not tipping below 16 Celsius. Now the cloud and the showers across North Wales, North Midlands into northern England continues to march north during Thursday morning. Cloud builds elsewhere and further showers will bubble up in places, but there'll also be some sunshine coming through. And Friday sees further showers in the north and the west, likewise on Saturday, but at the same time it will turn warmer.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Good evening, you're watching GB News. I'm Bethany Elsey, here to bring you up to date. The International Monetary Fund is predicting the UK is set to have the weakest economy in the G7 next year. They expect Britain's economic growth to expand by just 0.5% due to rampant inflation, which would be the worst performance among all major economies except for Russia. It's as the IMF warned that stalling growth across the world means we could be teetering on the edge of a global recession. Network Rail is advising people not to travel by train tomorrow unless absolutely necessary due to another day of strikes. More than 40,000 members of the RMT union and 14 train operators will walk out in a dispute over jobs, pay and conditions. Network Rail says only 20% of services will run and some places will have no trains at all. To minimise disruption, it's published a special timetable showing many trains will start later and finish earlier.
I would legislate to make sure there are essential services on our railway. It is completely wrong that the travelling public are being held ransom by militant unions. We can't allow that to happen. We need to make sure our essential services run.
That was the Tory leadership candidate Liz Truss. The latest Conservative Party leaders' debate between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss came to an abrupt end this evening after a medical incident in the studio. Talk TV released a statement to say that the host of the debate, Kate McCann, fainted while on air. The broadcaster says she's fine, but that the medical advice was to not continue the debate. People in England are being urged to use water wisely as the country faces drought in August. The Environment Agency is warning the dry conditions have been exacerbated by record high temperatures and lower than normal rainfall so far this year. The agency is now taking precautionary measures to mitigate the impacts. And England are through to the Women's Euro 2022 final after beating Sweden with a 4-0 victory at Bramall Lane. Goals from Beth Mead, Lucy Bronze, Alessia Russo and Fran Kirby have ended a 13-year run of defeats in the final four of major tournaments. The Lionesses now look forward to facing either France or Germany in the final on Sunday at Wembley. Let's see if they can bring it home. Good luck to them. On TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Let's get back to headliners.
Thank you, Bethany. Hello and welcome to Headliners. I am Simon Evans, and they say you should never meet your heroes. Luckily for me, tonight's guests are Diane Spencer and Kerry Marks. I don't write the links. I have to say that every evening. They try and set up some kind of tension, some kind of chill between us. Ouch. Well, it's just, I suppose it creates some sort of terrain, you know, over which we can travel together. Let's take a look at tomorrow's front pages. We start with the Daily Mail, as ever. They have air pollution, a likely cause of dementia. I'm not sure we'll be covering that story. I think they are the only ones to consider that of some importance. Obviously, it comes off the back of the undermining of a good deal of research that's gone on over the last couple of decades on dementia, though. And Rawsome, that is the rampant lionesses. Misses. The Daily Telegraph, Sunak's screeching U-turn on tax cuts. Keeps her in the lead, probably, over Rishi Sunak. We will be taking a look at that. And also the debate takes alarming turn as viewers are left in the dark due to medical issues. The Guardian have ministers played fast and loose with £777 million in COVID contracts. A vaguely satanic figure there. And there are the Lionesses once again celebrating their triumph over the Swedes. Financial Times has a picture of Liz Truss looking anxious as she sees the presenter who has fainted. And world's biggest consumer names announce soaring price increases. Inflation is the background story behind an awful lot of what's happening at the moment. European gas prices surge after Russia acts quickly on threat to choke supply. The Times has Sunak, I will ditch VAT on energy bills. There is Alessia Russo there celebrating a cheeky back heel that flummoxed the Sweden keeper to make it 3-0. There was still another one to come after that. And doctors set out medical guidelines for trans men giving birth. There is certainly a headline that would have flummoxed readers 20 years ago. The Daily Express, no ifs or buts. Police must solve more crimes. That's straight-talking Liz Truss for you. And finally, the Daily Star, I want that one, which is a Little Britain reference. TikTok chancers have added to chaos at clogged airports by faking injury to scrounge wheelchairs. We will be taking a look at that latest outrage from the great British public. So those are the front pages. Let's take a look inside. And I think we start with you, Diane. Wednesday's Telegraph, a somewhat abrupt end to the Tory leadership debate tonight.
Yes, so this was Sunak versus Truss, take two. Lots of, I was hoping for a little bit more, maybe a dance-off in this one, maybe some ribbon gymnastics. I would have liked it if it had moved into the more theatrical sort of element.
Maybe actual duelling with wobbly swords.
I would love that. Little bit of fencing. Maybe they could play Yahtzee. But unfortunately, it came to a quick end because Kate McCann, the political editor of the Talk TV, she collapsed. And there was a great big sound, a bit of a crash, and Liz Truss, bless her, with her robotic hands, went, oh no, something has happened, I must go rescue her.
She did look genuinely alarmed, actually. She looked very shocked, and it must have been quite alarming. I think, I mean, apparently she's fine, but it must have been quite horrible. I don't quite know what
it was quite a sound, wasn't it? It sounded like pots and pans.
Well, we certainly wish her all the best and a speedy recovery, but was there anything that came out that was of any surprise beforehand?
I didn't see this one, but I watched bits of the one yesterday, which was largely not a debate so much as a bicker.
Yeah.
And it started, everyone was talking about the way it started with both of them, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, just standing absolutely still for a very long time. And it was creepy.
Yeah.
And everyone talked about how creepy it was, but at the same time, it was spectacular because it turns out they're really good at it.
They're good at that.
They were so good at it that all over the country, human statues are just giving it up now. They're going, we can't beat this. And they stayed so still, it looked like they were cardboard. And then Rishi's mouth moved a little bit, almost like somebody put some coins in his tin, but it wasn't enough for a full body movement.
It wasn't that they were unaware that the thing had started and they were just waiting to get a cue from the...
Do you know what, to be fair, we know what happened, because we know TV enough, is that the BBC said, we're going to make this look really good.
Yeah, right.
Just you have to stand still, we're going to add some music, we're going to add sounds, it'll be great.
The stage was set by the worst craftwork gig ever. That was in 2015, and that's been that set the standard ever since. I have to say, I have no idea why they're continuing to have these debates on mainstream television. It's of no interest to the rest of us. You can
scare the public.
Newspapers, but the truth is, none of us have a vote. They should do it in camera with the weird old duffers and the old blue rinses and the retired brigadiers that get us in this matter. Keep us out of it. We would all much rather be watching the football. Speaking of which, onto the front page of Wednesday's Guardian, and the Lionesses roar into the Euro finals. Roar, Carey.
Well, I'm glad I got this story. I know absolutely nothing about football. So hopefully I will learn stuff. I'll handle it. England put 4 past Sweden, and this is how little I know. That's a thing. It's not a time of day.
Yeah.
4 past Sweden. I thought the other day when they got 8 past Norway, that was pretty impressive.
4 past
What time is that?
They are to be differentiated from turnips.
Yes.
Of course, was Graham Taylor back in the day, in the 90s.
But 4 past Sweden is great, and they get through to the Euro final, which will be at Wembley. England are thrashing Sweden, which I thought, being a women's game, we might get away with these male sort of metaphors of violence. And it'd be like patting fiercely or something.
What would be soothing their way past?
Soothing their way through. The Lionesses appear to have broken their semi-final curse, which is also, I think, probably the way the women's game works. Witchcraft, voodoo.
Oh, it's very important.
You've got to be careful with curses in that, but
yes.
Go on.
It's very important if you have, women playing. That's what we do that's different in women's football.
Yeah.
We bring in witchcraft.
Yes. The hex was part of
the men's game has been totally missing this. Prince William, president of the Football Association, tweeted support ahead of the match. He said, good luck to the tonight, Lionesses. The whole country is behind you. And Prince Andrew said, I'm behind every one of you. Allegedly. And I think we all know that allegedly means it did happen.
Do you follow this, Diane? Are you feeling like a part of your feminism?
It's more part of my love of football. I do enjoy football. I've just been, sadly, a little bit too busy to watch these games, and now they've got through the semi-final, which is just so fun. I love watching football at this level because I used to be a Yeovil Town Football Club supporter.
Oh, right. So it all looks pretty good to you.
That's amazing. I've spent many an hour in Hewish Park, which is our stadium. But, yeah, I do love football at a national level, and there's something just so exciting about wearing your sort of national colours and being in a pub and screaming, and it's wonderful.
I resisted the notion recently that the top scorer, is on a par with Wayne Rooney in a realistic sense, but we'll take it at this point. A win's a win, a final's a final. Apparently we're getting to host Eurovision next year as well.
Yes.
So,
it's all coming.
We're all on the up and up. Wednesday's Guardian, Brussels and gas. Name a more iconic duo, Diane.
So the EU has agreed a plan to ration gas use over Russian supply fears. So basically, Russia's state-controlled energy firm Gazprom has said that there's going to be a steep reduction in gas supplies. And what I think is interesting about this is Gazprom is making themselves out to be some kind of lair used by a Bond villain. I kind of imagine they have their own internal monorail system. All the workers have got jumpsuits. There's a man with a cat.
Minions.
Oh, definitely minions. And Ursula von der Leyen, who is our... she's our Bond girl in this. She put on her hard helmet and said...
She's pussy galore.
She's definitely pussy galore. It's Ursula von der Leyen. Okay. And she went down and she said, but there's no technical reason for the cut. So they've made this sort of agreement. But there's a bit of an issue in the EU.
Yeah.
So essentially, the member states are disagreeing. Hungary's against it sort of altogether.
Well, Hungary is always out of this loop, isn't it? Because Hungary don't regard themselves as under any moral obligation to
stick with the rest
to
of the
mitigate
EU.
Russia's business in Ukraine. But the weird thing with this, I mean, I may be misunderstanding, but it feels like it's very subtly Putin has turned the tables on the EU here, where we were supposed to be forcing economic sanctions on Russia, and instead
and the
Russia
ruble
has gone, right, we're going to turn your gas off.
And the ruble is the best performing currency at the moment as well.
Yeah.
Everything is kind of working out how he would have liked it to go.
I mean, maybe they're playing the long game, but it reminds me a little bit of the early days of the pandemic, where people were going, well, listen, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Yes.
You go, yeah, even in a marathon, it's best if you don't trip over on the first 3 yards with your laces tied together, you know.
And it's affecting everything. You know, we saw the deals going on with the grain recently as well. The grain wasn't getting out of Ukraine, affecting the whole world's food supply. And then my housemate, who is called Matt, at that point, hearing about the grain stopping and it being Putin's fault, decided that Putin is a serial killer. Now, I'm repeating that joke only so that people realise what I have to live with.
Cereal with a C. But the...
Thank you.
The drift of the story is basically EU is going to spread the pain, right? That's the idea. So there's going to be, like, essentially rationing on across the whole of the EU. So essentially, it's not just the Germans who get. This is what it feels a bit like.
This is the big issue because, like, Spain, Portugal and Greece have been quite critical of the plan because they're like, just because Germany is heavily reliant on the cheap Russian gas, those countries aren't, because obviously, you know, tapas doesn't take that long to cook. So they're kind of saying...
Germany is very good at spreading the pain throughout the EU. I mean, you would say the Eurozone is essentially a scheme whereby the pain of having one of the world's strongest currencies is spread evenly among all the economies of the EU, regardless of whether they have the machinery and the industry to offset it. You know.
But they are very worried because of their gas, they sort of, in 2021, they imported 142 billion cubic metres of gas, and they use 100 cubic billion cubic metres of gas. And about 32% of that is Russian. And half of that gas goes on heating people's homes.
Right.
So it's going to be a cold winter. See, well, let's hope climate change keeps pace with this. Independent now, and good news for this Brit before he hit rock bottom.
This story's got a lot of things going on. So it's a British geologist to be freed from an Iraqi prison after smuggling conviction squashed. This is according to The Independent. Briton, 66, had faced 15 years behind bars after collecting 12 stones and shards of broken pottery as souvenirs.
We all collected a few stones under lockdown.
And bits of pottery, we do that. Once he's home, this is family talking, we will celebrate and take some time to recover as a family, which is a nice way to do it, and we'll be happy to tell the story to anyone who will listen. Obviously, they don't want to tell the story right now because he's still over there, and they don't want to chance anything.
But basically,
it's also
he took a bit of pottery and they're making
and 12 stones.
Stolen,
I mean, when he does tell the story, it's going to sound like it's either a set-up to a joke or a shaggy dog story with some big disappointment. It's going to start with, well, I picked up a stone, and I picked up another stone, and I had 12 stones and 3 shards of pottery, and people go, oh, this is going to be really hilarious in a moment.
It's not going to be a big story. Possibly the threat of 16 years in jail or whatever.
Well, 15 years in which he would have been the most boring prisoner they'd ever had. But everyone would be telling their stories of murder and bombings and everything else. He'd be like, well, me, it's just all about stones and shards of pottery.
But he went to an archaeological site
Yeah.
And he picked up some stuff.
Yes.
Maybe it wasn't very impressive stuff. But
Are you saying he deserved 15 years for that?
well, I wouldn't do that myself in Iraq.
Was it the pottery or the stones, do you think?
I'm interested to notice, by the way, that his son-in-law is a Mr. Sam Tasker. I wonder if that's his surname or whether that's his kind of role in the family. Right, Jim, your job is to go to Iraq and steal some priceless... I think he's been foolish, I'll be honest with you.
I think he's been
I'm glad that
foolish.
they've got him out, but I don't think you should go to archaeological sites. And it's not like Iraq is like a sort of grey zone, is it? We're all pretty familiar with the fact that that's, you know, that they have a fairly brutal penal system.
And he thought he got away with it as well. He was just going through the airport and they went through his luggage and, yeah. I've been stopped at airports, though, a few times. And I used to do an act with lots of potatoes, and I got stopped going into Northern Ireland with a whole case full of potatoes, and they'd never seen anything like it before. But I had to explain to them their potatoes aren't big enough.
Wow.
For the joke I used to do.
Insult to injury.
I know.
Those times now, it looks like Russia is also pulling out of the International Space Station. Apparently they're coming up with a plan to reproduce their own. Is that right, Diane?
Yes, so they think they're going to make their own orbital space station. And currently the ISS is joint operated by several countries, but the Russians are in charge of the bit that propels it. So the Russians are in charge of the bit that keeps the damn thing up in space.
Right.
And they're now saying they're going to pull out of the International Space Station in 2024, and they're going to build their own. But my question is, well, OK, so they're going to clearly have a lot of gas left over, so they maybe might be able to power their rockets that way, but they aren't going to have that many rockets, mainly as they've fired them all at Ukraine. So how they're going to get this stuff up into space?
I don't know if those are the same rockets. I think they might be a different system.
The missiles, the intercontinental ballistic missiles and various other missiles, they're all sort of rockets and jet engines. They just have a warload on the top.
There's some talk of them collaborating with Elon Musk's company, which is SpaceX, of course.
Yes, and
which would be fairly controversial, I would imagine, wouldn't it?
Well, Elon Musk likes to play the great. What is it? Where you're kind of in the middle of everything. You won't take sides with anybody.
He always turns up, doesn't he? He's always there. Suddenly, anything going on, suddenly Elon Musk arrives.
Well, maybe he will be able to sort of pour oil on these troubled waters. I don't know, but it's not. I wouldn't have thought they could turn it around that quickly, though. A year to build a space station.
No,
I doubt it.
Longer than that, isn't it?
I mean,
and they won't want it to just be a replica of the current one. It's 20 years old. They want a newer, sort of more. They want one with quieter sliding doors and things.
When they get
switches and stuff.
Yeah, nice all
Probably
furnishings.
Contact hob. What do they call them? The with the electric hobs where you where Tony gets. One induction hobs. Yeah, well that's one of those definitely.
Very nice.
Because I would imagine in a space station you need to have like a bit of magnet under the hob as well to stop the.
I love the fact
they can't do much. It's been 22 years now.
You don't think there's a hob, but is it all just microwaves?
There is a coffee machine.
Right.
There is a coffee machine in the International Space Station, but they mainly eat things that are made in cubes and tubes. That's what they call their
cubes
food.
And tubes.
Do they have to go out every week for the cleaners to come in and sort it? It's been 22 years of people living there non-stop.
And there is also the threat that if they abandon it, how does it come down, right?
Oh, no, they're going to bring it down in 2030, and the plan is to crash it.
Right.
No,
to what it?
They're going to crash it in the sea.
Oh, crash it.
In the sea, but they can aim it, OK, can they?
Yes.
Yeah, OK.
So they're going to purposefully, when they decommission the space station, I mean, I don't know why they're going to crash it into the sea. It's going to be like the world's worst sort of fish tank exhibit.
Yeah.
They're going to just plummet it into the sea. I mean,
just my luck. I'm bound to be out on a whale watching. I would have thought they should explode it. Maybe that is where Russia could come in. Just aim a missile at the...
It's pretty bad luck just to be out on a whale watching.
It just seems a shame they're going to crash it at all.
Yeah, they should make it a place that school trips could go to. Wednesday's Independence. Some men don't like being told what to wear, it seems, Kerry.
Pride jerseys spark player boycott at Australian Rugby League club. They were told...
Of course, it had to be the one with the most ironic name.
What's their name?
Have you not seen?
The Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. Are they really called that, or was Manly supposed to be capitalised?
It's a borough in Sydney, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, of course it is. Yes, you're right. Yeah. An Australian Rugby League club's historic decision to wear rainbow jerseys. Why is that historic? I mean, wearing a jersey is not that historic, is it?
Not that
wow,
historic,
no one's ever worn a jersey with a rainbow on it in history. This changes everything. We'll never look at jerseys in the same way again.
It is remarkably easy to make history these days.
Yes. Yeah. So they've been told to wear these jumpers. Some of them have objected to it. which is odd in a sense because I would say that rugby is probably the gayest game ever anyway. And with the most denial. It is. Oh, come on. It was invented in public schools that were just for boys who were getting very frustrated. So they went out onto a pitch together and they had a load of boys scrummed in close, put their arms around each other's groins, and then two of them became hookers or something. I don't know the rules. And then they spent 80 minutes touching each other up, and then they go and have a communal bath and tell each other bawdy jokes and try and carry on the pretense.
And Carey's address will be on the screen at the end of this programme. League International.
Their complaint was there was little consultation or collaboration with the stakeholders. They were just told about it.
Yeah. To be fair to these guys, they are. I mean, I don't know if they deserve me to be fair to them, but the ones who are refusing to do it, I don't have any strong view on it. But they have, it seems, legitimate cultural and religious.
Yes.
They are. One of them is a Mormon. A couple of them are. I mean, it's an extraordinarily diverse team, and this is the problem. If you want to describe it as a problem, it is arguably a problem when you get diversity. One of the side effects of diversity is people have diverse views about other issues that you wanted to see represented in the team, right?
Well, I also
so you've
think
got this kind of, you've got
totally.
lots of different religions and cultures that represent.
Have your religion, have your ideology, but don't force it on people.
Yeah, but are they not forcing the rainbow on people as well?
Well, it's sort of forced. They're saying they then don't have to play, but it should be they don't have to wear the jumpers.
The jumper, that would be the thing, wouldn't
because,
it?
And sometimes I find that people can be so forceful. I used to be a feminist until I saw Ed Miliband and David Cameron wearing those T-shirts saying this is what a feminist looks like. And I'm like, well, I don't look like that.
No, that's true. I think they'll thank you for not wearing one of those, to be honest. No, I absolutely agree with you. There should be the option to wear one of those jerseys if you want to demonstrate solidarity with the gay movement. Great.
Yeah, totally.
If you don't, it wouldn't be difficult to determine whether or not you were in the same team. I don't know, I've kept you out of this.
No, I agree, because I think the ironic thing is that they were saying that it's to celebrate inclusiveness and diversity. Well, in order to do that, you need to celebrate the differences, and you have people in your group who, because of their differences, they don't want to wear the jersey.
Yeah, well, there it is. I think we've solved it. That's it for part one. Coming up, we'll be discussing why TikTok is ruining your summer holidays, why Spain is taking an interest in your bank account, why so many of us are now alcohol dependent. Now. I like that. So, we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. I'm joined by Kerry Marks and Diane Spencer. So Wednesday's Telegraph now. Social media is often charged with affecting attention spans, sleep patterns, self-esteem. Time now to add destroying society's infrastructure to this, Diane.
Yes, Heathrow blames TikTok wheelchair, in quotes, travel hack for airport chaos.
Travel hack.
Travel hack. So essentially people have been doing these TikTok videos where they're nicking wheelchairs and going, oh, look, if you don't want to wait in a line with all these other people, just say that you've got a leg problem. Look, take your shoe off so that you can limp, so you can wheel to the front. But it means that people who genuinely need a wheelchair are literally like, well, there's no wheelchairs
and
now.
also, I imagine it probably holds up the queue that bit longer while they're actually trying to deal with you at the other end.
While all these selfish social media users...
You're not just getting to the front of the queue. You become an incident in your own right, don't you? I think if you're on a wheelchair, presumably you hobble out of it at the other end.
Yeah, but also they have to like keep this up. This is method. Like, because
once you've started,
yeah, once you've started, and people who aren't used to being in wheelchairs, that's a lot of upper body strength.
Do you think that's where Stephen Hawking started, and it was a prank that got out of control?
Super method. That is.
What really disturbs me is this was something someone put up on TikTok, and other people thought, oh, that works.
Yeah.
But they hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
How stupid are people? They hadn't. I mean, it's horrible they're doing it.
Yes.
But it hadn't occurred to them that pretending to be disabled gets you things. That people are going to give you food,
I'm very near the age
carry
now
things.
where I can get this kind of stuff anyway. You know, if I just kind of say, I would like a little bit of help here, please, and then I get put on the back of the little electronic train that goes through the airport. You've seen those ones, yeah?
I'm going to make a TikTok video where I tell people how they can get things by stealing, and they'll be like, oh, what? That's amazing.
Get things by paying for them.
What?
Anyway,
some of them don't know that one either.
On to Wednesday's Metro now. This is more news to make travel than holidays in general a miserable experience. Spain is positioning itself as the new Monaco, by the sound of it. Monaco, I should say.
Yes.
Mrs. Kerry?
Oh, OK. Well, basically, the story is that everything in the world is getting worse. And families may have to prove they've got £6,000 in their bank for holidays in Spain. British tourists may need to show Spain's border officials that they have €100, £85 for every day they spend on holiday, blah, 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 blah. Spanish immigration staff may also ask Brits to prove they have a return ticket or proof of accommodation and have passports to show. Some of that actually is just kind of what you'd expect. It's just going to slow up holidays and make it more difficult to travel. I don't know. I really can't tell with this whether it's punishment because we've left because of leaving Europe, or whether it's just that they need to do that now.
It's a good question. Spain don't seem to be particularly punitive, I don't think. I mean, France, I get the feeling they are really trying to punish us. And I feel
if France were doing it, we'd know it was deliberately
I feel Southern
offensive.
Europe are a bit more, I don't know, they may just be... What do you think, Diane?
I think that this is part of Spain trying to recoup a lot of tourism costs that they may have lost during COVID, because also with the all-inclusive, they've now limited you to about 6 drinks. Yeah, because I think you can only have 3 drinks at the lunchtime and 3 drinks at dinner time, because people have been going to all-inclusive now going, but they've stopped giving us drinks and now we have to pay for them. And now when you go in to Spain, they're saying, oh, you need to bring 85 quid with you, which I assume, like, that's a lot to spend in one day, don't you think? Like,
I think it's back up, though, isn't it? It's like you need to have up to £85.
I don't think it is that much to spend in one day. I mean, it'd be a lot to spend at the bar, but not if you're going to do some sort of activity during the day.
Oh, I was just going to say
family out. I suppose it was, I remember those bars. The free drinks were never worth the
tiny little plastic beaker they were delivered in.
The business of having some horrible wristband on.
Physically, it shouldn't make any difference, though, should it?
The law of unintended consequences now from Wednesday's Mirror, Diane. This is one of the little side effects of lockdown?
Yes. I mean, maybe this is why Spain is curtailing their booze. So alcohol drinking during COVID pandemic could lead to 25,000 booze-related deaths. And I assume that includes climbing up to the top of a statue to place the traffic cone upon its head.
But this is over the next 20 years, isn't it? They are kind of making it sound a little bit more alarming than it is. So maybe like an extra 1,200 deaths a year in a country of 60 million? That's
You're OK with that, are you?
Well,
that's your limit, is it?
It's getting to a rounding error, wouldn't you say? How many people do you think currently die of booze-related deaths in the UK?
I have no idea.
No, exactly. You've no idea. So you've no idea if this is a serious story or not. I can't tell either. But it just sounds to me like they're trying to make there's a little bit of a. I don't know. What do you think? Did you dig into it?
Well, I mean, it certainly means that the queue at the bar is going to get shorter as we go along. That's not so bad. Hey, essentially, they're saying that because in lockdown, if you drank more, you've probably not now reduced it. Now you're out of lockdown.
Right.
And they're saying that that because of that, it'll then lead to a myriad of other health problems. The NHS will collapse. We'll all be living underground. Constant, apocalyptic scenario.
I mean, I am fully on board with the whole there are loads of side effects of lockdown. It was a disastrous policy, and we're going to be facing it. Doesn't feel to me like an extra 1,000 deaths a year over the next 20 years from alcohol related, which is a very
I like how
British
you're knocking
thing
this
anyway.
like
it's going
you're
down,
the
isn't
number
it?
Down. Yeah, it was like 25,000. He's knocked it down to 12.
Yes.
Now down to a grand.
I think losing 5 people is nothing at all. But
we all had that thing, right, where you pour yourself lockdown measures at home and then you went to the pub for the first time after lockdown. What? You call that a whiskey?
But that's largely what they found. They found that they're saying that the people who already had a drinking problem before the pandemic got worse, which is not that big a surprise, really, is it? You're saying that when you lock people at home with the booze, they're going to smoke more. Well, oddly enough, chronic masturbation went up as well, apparently. But
that's pretty good for you at our age, actually. You'd be amazed. That actually offsets the risk.
I didn't say it was me.
This next from the Telegraph sounds like a dystopian series of Jackanory set in 2025.
OK. Protesters who storm the first drag queen story time for primary school children. This has come over from America, of course. It was drag queens telling stories to children. And so there's a load of mothers who, I like the word, they infiltrated a library and saying, we're here to protect the children.
Women
first drag queen story hour.
Men dressed as women.
Almost 70 events in 20 areas of Britain.
Yeah.
This one happened in, where was it, Reading?
Reading.
In Reading, I believe, about a dozen parents and young children were seen dancing with the drag queens, oh my God, in Reading Library, right, against a din of chants outside the venue. Council officials had planned a heavy police presence, so there was only heavy police, not small ones. You're allowing child grooming to take place, they shouted. This is disgusting. Do you know what autogynephilia is? So in a way it's good because they're teaching children long words, which is really helpful.
But let me ask you this. Just like, I mean, rather than just reading out all the details, what is your kind of view on it? And sincerely, because some people say this is obscene, it's bizarre, it's grooming, it's sexualized, it's a weird kind of, it's like the blackface of trans, this kind of.
Oh, but that's a different complaint.
Men dressing up as a grotesque exaggerations of femininities, and other people say, have you never been to a pantomime? This is like part of British culture for the last 200 years,
yes.
Men dressing up as exaggerated. So where do you stand on it?
We're changing on this, aren't we? And it's whatever we think now. I'm not going to say anything, because I know what everything you say now in 20 years is going to be wrong.
Just don't tweet it.
People will hate it. And it will be turned... drag is... There are people now who are against drag because it's, in a sense, making fun of trans and it's making fun of women and everything is now exploitative.
I don't think anyone is against it because it's making fun of trans. I don't know. There might be a tiny community. I think...
Well, trans would be men who genuinely... I feel that they are women, whereas drag is someone who could be seen as mocking that as well. This is all going on. This is all going on right now.
What do you think?
But I think it depends what the stories they're telling are. If the story they're telling is about an ugly duckling who then whipped its penis off and was fine, then I think that might be a little bit uncomfortable for the children. But if they're just telling stories...
Hans Christian Andersen, imagine.
I don't know, Diana, what do you think?
I had a look at the website of the drag Storytime, and I did have an issue with the way that the person was dressed because, and let me just be clear on this, if I'm going to go into a school and I'm going to talk to children, I'm not going to wear an evening gown with sort of stockings and heels. I'm not going to dress like that. I'm going to dress appropriately to be with children. So I had an issue with that.
There is, there is
happy.
something to be said for the theory that some people are part of the appeal of trans, and I'm sure there are other, aspects to it as well, is that it's a mode in which you're allowed to be exorbitantly sexy.
I don't like that. That's not for children. That is not for children.
I agree with you.
No, yeah.
You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't go in that mode if you were an actual woman, and yet because you're a man dressed as a woman, you can have, the complete license to. Yeah. No, well, it's
But it all built into
story.
citizens' arrests and everything, and it sounds like it was a load of fun for the kids.
That certainly would liven up a lot more than the naked duckling or whatever it was. Wednesday's Times now, and this one is unsurprising if you've ever had a bicycle nicked, Diane, which I have on at least 5 occasions over the last 10 years.
Oh, so there are facial recognition cameras that are being used in a UK real...
Sorry, no, this is the unsolved cases, I think.
Oh.
The unsolved cases closed by the police.
Oh, good grief, I'm so sorry.
And some 90% of bicycle thefts were closed without any suspect ever being identified, but there's a few others as well.
Well, isn't that wondrous? So, essentially, police need to solve more crimes, which you would say is kind of their job. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know that there are apparently other things that they do, Operation Base Tan and...
Yeah, there is that. But they don't even deter many now either, do they?
No, they really don't.
They're not out there visibly.
Well, also, there are at least 6 police forces that have been put into special measures because they are really woefully inadequate, and they're too busy sort of running around dealing with tweets and things. And they're not actually...
hate incidents.
Yeah, and they're not solving crimes. So they're closed. And
I was interested to see British Transport Police closed the highest ratio of offences.
Really?
They got 63% of theirs, which I would imagine that includes speed cameras, right? That's probably because it's been completely outsourced to automation, to mechanised... like photographic capture and so on. This is it's pathetic. Anything that actually involves a miscreant human being, they're absolutely hopeless.
Yeah, but and the worst performing force was the Metropolitan Police. What a surprise in London, because you see people walking around all the time, and they walk around. They actually sort of have little bags, like little bum bags. And I don't know if you've seen it, but the way that people can steal bikes, it happens so fast because they have a little kit inside their little bag, and they just sort of whip out their kit, and they can cut a bike lock within seconds.
With something that you can keep in a...
Yeah, you could keep it in your jacket. You probably could. You could have one right now on
this time next week, there will be a plague of this, and it will come back to you. Like TikToks in the
You've told them too much.
The sale of bum bags has gone up. Maybe we could make a TikTok. We could do a TikTok on how to knit bikes.
That is it for part 2. Coming up, the biggest threats humanity faces today, an all-seeing AI, dead spider robots. You really will want to stick around for that one, and cat depression, cat-based depression. We will see you in 2 minutes. The cats are okay.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know. The latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
And welcome back to Headliners with me, with Kerry Marks and with Diane Spencer. Wednesday's Independent is our first story for the final third, and we have the impending threat of artificial intelligence, Kerry. Which,
Another threat.
You've totally wrapped your head around this one.
This is Google's former head, Eric Schmidt, who is warning us about the impact of AI, and he's saying it could be worse than or as bad as nuclear weapons, which doesn't even take into account when we have AI nuclear weapons.
Well, I mean, that is the point.
Well, it is the point. We're going to have
aren't they,
nuclear weapons going, I'm just going out for a little wander for a while. You're like, no, nuclear weapons, stay home.
Yeah.
We don't trust
But
it.
is it the AI?
Diving.
His concern is that the AI will be given the right to make its own decisions about this.
We don't want that happening.
No, I don't think that's a good idea.
No one wants a thinking AI bomb.
No.
But the thing is, sci-fi's been warning about this for decades, hasn't it? You'd think by now we'd have some contingency plan or some arrangement for that we'd have some international law that all AI needs a big button on it.
Yeah.
With a remote.
Yeah.
So we can shut down anything instantly.
That's the trouble with international law, though, isn't it? International law is essentially, it's an anarchy onto which is kind of like sellotape some
yes,
like,
totally.
It's like a kitchen in which there's nobody monitoring who's actually nicking the food from the fridge. It's a really passive-aggressive post-it note.
But it's
and
also
all
this
the
is going to
plugs are
happen.
Different. So if you yank the plug
right.
out, we won't
you
know
don't know whether you've got the right
plug
charger
we're
to do it, or
Have
and
you got
it's
your head
everywhere
around
now.
this, Diane? Go on.
So essentially what happened is they're saying it's as dangerous as nuclear weapons because when they were in the nuclear arms race, it was very clear who's developing the nuclear weapons.
Right.
So you could ring up the other people
Yes.
in another country and say, so can you not fire your nuclear weapon at us and we won't fire at you? We've got this system, you've got that system, because you knew who you were talking to.
Yeah.
Whereas AI is being developed by all sorts of different companies in all sorts of different countries, so there's no one centralised location. And as soon as a government decides to actually connect their AI to their defence system, that is the same as sort of now attaching a thinking trigger. And also, whoever programs the AI...
Trigger. You should copyright that phrase. I like it.
Thinking trigger.
A thinking trigger. Smart trigger.
Oh, and whoever programs the AI is going to have their sort of mannerisms and habits. So, like, if my mother made an AI program, every so often it would go, ooh. So
maybe. I mean, I don't know if I find that alarming, because that's not your mother, but just generally the idea that it would be human. But I mean, what I do find alarming, for instance, the combination of these two things. One, we know that in 20 years ago they developed Deep Blue and it made the chess guy a few times, and gradually they improved it. I can never remember his name. Not Karlin, Kasparov. Garry Kasparov. Eventually he was beaten soundly by Deep Blue, but it was still working with, by studying previous games played by grandmasters and analysing what tactics have won and so on. Then they introduced machine learning, and a machine that learned how to play Go in the morning beat the world Go champion that afternoon. and Go is vastly more complex and has vastly more kind of game theory in it than chess does. So if they link up this artificial intelligence to the nuclear weapons, it might analyse the entire world structure and go, right, we need to take out Turkey, America and France. Boom, and it's done. Do you know what I mean? Immediately. Yep. We'll kind of go, gives us our best chance of survival. And there are plenty of people who've written books about, the Greek War, the Peloponnesian Wars, the Chinese Sun Tzu and all the rest of it, in which you say, sometimes you have to do these things. You have to strike first and be preemptive,
Is an actual terrifying reality that you've just painted. And just to add to your chess thing, we now have a robot that recently broke a child's finger.
Yes, that's right. There was, wasn't there? Yes.
If
that's not a big enough warning at this point, isn't it?
It's like, do you get it yet? Yeah. The Guardian now there, and the Panopticon is taking form, it seems. This is... facial recognition cameras?
So this is what I was trying to chat about in earlier. So facial recognition cameras in a UK retail chain are being challenged by a privacy group. So Southern Cooperative are using I nearly said fecal recognition cameras. That is
They'll have
terrible.
those as well.
Have those,
But nutritionists probably use them. And they're saying it's very Orwellian because you're obviously like scanning people's faces. And obviously the shop is saying, yes, but because we scan these people's faces, we can identify who has threatened or been violent to our staff. And we can put their picture up and we can stop them
There's always
coming
an
in.
excuse for it.
Yes. So is that how you feel? Like
I'm glad these people are doing this. I'm glad they're trying to stop this from happening, but it's a lost battle.
Yeah.
It's unquestionably lost. A few years ago, when there was a point where we had we could see the surveillance building up. There was more and more cameras, thousands of cameras in London. I think one of the busiest cities in the world for cameras. We got, and then we had loads of databases. You remember under Tony Blair, there was constant database of fingerprints of people who hadn't even had committed a crime. There were people losing files. There was a file of tens of thousands of children that got lost, which could fall into the wrong hands. Obviously, an actual paedophile, if you will. And there was a point then when I was getting worried about it, and I was going, well, we're heading into a state. Yeah. And the government actually was saying, if you've nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear, which I thought were the most terrifying words to come from the government, because I fear those words.
Well, absolutely, and also it's just a basic human, not just a right, it's something we've evolved to protect and cherish, isn't it? Our degree of privacy. Funny enough, this next story from the Times, I feel kind of interlocks with this to some extent. It's yet another sad indictment of the times we live in. The lights are on the floor now. Perhaps people are putting their faces down to avoid the facial recognition cameras. I don't know, but... Who's this? You got this one, Kerry, I think?
Oh.
No, I think so.
The traffic lights
on the traffic lights on the Hong Kong pavements.
I don't know anything about that.
Zombie phones.
You don't have that one, OK.
Oh, OK.
Our stories are all over the place.
No, don't worry.
Well, I can tell you what it is. You know what it is.
Yeah. So what they're doing, this is a story in the Times, traffic lights are being shone onto Hong Kong pavements to help phone zombies safely cross the road. So you're going to love this. So I'll explain it to you. OK, so you're one of those people that you see at the traffic lights and you're looking at your phone, and instead of encouraging the people to look up and check if it's safe to cross, they're literally shining a red light on the floor so you can use your peripheral vision because... Yes!
This is wonderful.
And then when it goes blue, you cross so you don't have to look up. I mean,
you don't have to make your face...
I'm not really sold.
Facial recognition
I'm not really sold. That's terrible.
I remember years ago there was a thing, you know the MASH, what was it called, the MASH report that Nish that there was an online version, a sort of like a bit like The Onion. It was very funny, called the Daily MASH. And they had a thing where they said 9 out of 10 millennials now refer to reality as the blur, meaning everything around their screen, that they only would look at their screen.
Really?
But we have now moved to the point where the blur is actually... You
follow the blur.
You just obey chromatic changes in the blur, and that's all you can possibly be expected to do in order to know whether it's safe or whatever. I mean, I guess it works. They already have bleeps, don't they, to enable blind people to know that it's safe to cross.
It's a bit different, isn't it? Because they're blind.
Yeah, well,
they have what we used to call an excuse to not see where they're going.
Mark Twain said the man who does not look at the blur has no advantage over the man who cannot look at the blur. Mail now, and if Tim Burton was the manager of a seaside arcade, this would be one of his amusements, Diane.
OK, so I'm just going to put a big warning here for anybody watching this. So if you're an arachnophobic person, OK, so maybe don't look
Smart trigger
at
warning.
this bit. Yeah, OK, so...
We have video.
Oh, God, there's a video and I... So scientists transform dead spiders into necrobots. So that is an actual dead spider
That's a zombie spider.
And they're injecting it with air.
Wow.
And
that spider is not alive. It's entirely doing that through a sort of pneumatic. That doesn't make you feel weird, does it?
Oh, that's disgusting.
I want to know what that weird red thing is that it picked up.
I think it was a tomato.
And these spiders have been going into schools and telling stories to children. And it's just wrong.
I love the word necrobot.
Well, yeah, because it's a dead husk of a spider.
Yeah.
And the way that spiders' limbs work is that, oh my God, why are they showing it again?
the rest of the night.
You'll get over it.
That's
you have to keep watching.
But
No, I'm not.
They could use a necrobot lobster then, presumably, or anything with an exoskeleton, right?
Oh.
Is it off?
It's gone, yeah.
Oh, it's horrible for a spider watching his dead relative come back and start messing around
As
with
a crane.
circuit board.
Spider brain, wouldn't it? Talking of messing with your brain, male now, there are two types of people in this world, cat people and dog people, but only one kind that gets depressed when their favourite pet is in the house, it seems.
The debate has now reached a new stage of scientists discovering that that expectant mums become more depressed if they have a cat around.
Yeah.
A dog apparently reduces depression, but a cat increases it. I know, this is like, what do scientists really do there? Why do they come up with... But anyway, this could be important. Some of it's to do with Toxoplasma gondii, which I don't know if that's... a lot of cat owners, I think it's a very high percentage of people in Europe who own cats, have Toxoplasma gondii in their brains.
Right.
And rats get it. Rats would tend to be attracted to cat urine.
Right.
When they have this. So in other words, they become suicidal. Cats then eat them, they catch the toxoplasma, then they pass it on to humans. Humans become more risk-taking.
We don't get attracted to cat urine, though, do we? Is that how it manifests?
It makes you get a cat.
And then the cat makes you depressed.
Cat makes you go, and you go through the whole cycle.
I mean, we have a cat and a dog because we got a dog initially. The dog didn't work out, went to live with my in-laws instead. Not went to live on a farm, genuinely went to live with the in-laws. I felt bad, so we bought the kids a cat to sort of like make up for it. But then my wife went, no, we're going to have another dog. So now we have it's a classic Evans tactical blunder. Basically, so we have two. There is no doubt which one of them is more demanding. Which one would, if you were feeling exhausted because you've got a new human to look after, and I know how postpartum depression is no joke.
No.
But it's partly it might be a chemical imbalance, but it's also a perfectly rational response.
But which one affects your self-esteem, though?
No, but I'm just saying, it's not about the self-esteem. It's when you have a new baby, it's just exhausting. It's just constantly demanding your attention the whole time.
Sure, the baby is.
If you have another thing in the house, the cat, which is doing that as well, that is just going to, oh my God, I cannot bear this. Whereas the dog is actually kind of, don't worry, I'll take care of the baby for a couple of hours. The dog is more like that.
That's a good dog you've got there.
Yeah, yeah.
And also
changes nappies and stuff.
Yeah, it's like
I really trained it well.
There was a dog in Peter Pan in the nursery that was like that. The big kind of shaggy dog that looked after the kids. Yeah,
that's a great pub quiz question. Yeah, but also with sort of cats and dogs, a dog is always happy to see you. Always runs up to you, is like, "Oh, you're great, buddy. You're doing really well." And a cat will just look at you with disdain.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I said. Is that the cat? That's what I said about self-esteem. Is that the cat reduces people's self-esteem, which is, I mean, considering what you just said about the dog, but what a cat does really is it expects you to feed it, look after it, stroke it, and then it shows you its bottom, and that's supposed to improve your self-esteem.
Got a tea towel you'd like to put in here? A story now from the Telegraph that would have been the biggest story in the world 50 years ago. Such is the state of our world now. It's our 17th most important story.
So the existence of the Loch Ness Monster is plausible after a fossil discovery. So the University of Bath has found fossils of small plesiosaurus, plesiosaurus? Plesiosaur. A plesiosaur, there we go. And this is most likely the relative of the Loch Ness Monster because it's a long-necked aquatic mammal. And originally they said, oh, but there's no way that the Loch Ness Monster could be real because Loch Ness is freshwater. Whereas...
As if that was the main objection they had to overcome.
It wouldn't be in this kind of water, would it?
It wouldn't be this far north.
It's too cold. It's too cold.
Bigfoot doesn't like heat.
So it turns out there are freshwater plesiosaurs.
Yes. So they've found fabulous fossils.
Not there are.
But it would still, so it still has like a food source to establish and so on in a lot. Is that simple?
Yeah, because I assume that if you're sort of about 9 foot tall, you're going to want to eat a lot.
Yeah.
So
maybe it will reinvigorate the Scottish tourist industry. That and the fact that you have to show your birth certificate to get into Spain now, whatever it is. Wednesday's Guardian now, and French and suppleness, two words you often pair with one another.
There are new words in the French dictionary which shows how the great suppleness of language. I don't know why new words show a great suppleness of language, because I thought we've always had new words, but I don't think there's... Oh, wow, we've suddenly realised that language is very supple.
That was supple, but it's not quite the right word. We need a new new word for it, ironically.
And many of them have been influenced by COVID and by pandemic and climate crisis, which is also rather unsurprising considering the big things that have been going on in the last few years.
Well, give us a few French
climate
words.
crisis and pandemic. So we've got a few words like COVID-A, which means infected with coronavirus.
Can we have a bit more?
I hope you worked out. No, you can't.
COVID-A.
No, you can't. You will have the English versions of this.
COVID-A.
All right, you do this one then. Eco-anxiety. Eco-anxiety. I feel like I'm making fun of French people rather than doing it.
Verdissement d'image.
Yeah.
See that one? That's greenwashing, which is quite a useful one.
My favourite was I'm going to say it in an Italian way because I prefer it in an Italian way. Vaccinodrome.
Vaccinodrome. No, it's vaccinodrome.
Vaccinodrome. Vaccinodrome for a vaccination centre.
And one which is much used in France in recent weeks is apparently méga-feu, but I don't know what that means. Was it like a massive fire?
Massive fail?
There's plasticroute, which is a blue crust of plastic formed on coastal rocks. Some of these are quite intriguing, but anyway, it sounds like the French are as overwhelmed.
And most of them have come from English as well, 80% of them.
Yeah.
So really, we win, don't we? These are our words.
It's a constant flow, and it absolutely drives them insane, which I love. You know, they tried bitterly to fight against the weekend for a very long time. The truth is, steak frite. We all know where the word came from, really. Anyway, that's all we have time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Carey and Diane. You've been an absolute joy. Tomorrow night, new presenter Andrew Doyle. He has Steve N. Allen and someone else we don't know yet who the other one's going to be.
That's exciting.
It's partly this kind of excitement that keeps the programme so watchable. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed our breakdown of Wednesday morning's papers. You might be watching it Wednesday morning, but if you've been watching live, have a good night's sleep. See you very soon. All the best. Good night.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know. The latest